didn't want to pay. And when we went to court, they realized we were serious and they paid. Now, the local government, I didn't know how much they got, but apparently they made a lot of money because the next thing I knew, they recommended me for a state award. And I emerged the best youth corper in the then Cross River.
Wow.
And then that, of course, also meant I qualified for the national award, and I eventually awarded the President's NYSC award for meritorious service, which again, the records show that I'm the first lawyer to have been so honored.
You traveled abroad to Cardiff to gain an advanced degree in criminology.
Which moments would you like to perhaps recall as your most memorable times at the law school?
Yes, after the national service, I was, as I said, I got the presidential award. I was awarded the President's NYSC award. And then I actually went into practice, legal practice in Bori. I went back to Bori and opened the first law firm and started teaching people the importance of law, human rights. And then eventually, of course, there was also a high court. There had always been a magistrate court.
I do remember this day when I was at the High Court in Bori, and he came to make a presentation, and he was doing this case against a much more senior lawyer than himself. And I was struck by his eloquence and brilliance. I knew that here was a lawyer who was ready for legal practice. That was the first impression I had about Nimi Walson-Jack.
I went back to Ife to start a master's degree in law. I was on the program when the university lecturers went on strike before the course ended. And while they were on strike, the Babangida administration constituted the 1988 Constituent Assembly. And I was told that I had been appointed in. Well, on the list was a Nimi Jack. And I didn't think that anybody knew a small boy like me to appoint me into a national assignment. And then I heard that some people, there were many Nimis, of course, went and they were told no, they were looking for the young man who just graduated, completed national service, who was honored at by the NYC and the president. That's how they looked for me. And so you are the one they're looking for in Abuja. And so I headed to Abuja. So later on, the Director General of NYC told me the story that on the day of the award, I had dressed in the Etibo with my injury wrapper tied and had walked on the stage with bare feet. And the President Babangida then found it intriguing. And, apparently he took notes. So when he was making the appointments, and they needed to appoint a representative for students and youth interest, he asked the Director General for the name of that man who was dressed in the traditional attire and all that, and he gave him Nimi Jack. He didn't remember the Walson. So that's how I got appointed.
The solicitation was made that Nimi be appointed by me to be one of my special assistants. I did not hesitate after my interview with him to give him that opportunity to serve me as my personal assistant. Maybe studying his character, was intelligent, resolute and determined young man. His intellectual ambition made him most restless in wanting to do researches and to improve on his lots, which I believe today he has successfully attained.
Well, I've known Nimi for close to upwards of 25 years, and within this period I found him a man of consummate skill in whatever he does, who has put a lot of energy in trying to propagate the law and social activism. He's a man who has a passion to do whatever he has set out to do.
He was a very clever boy, intelligent, articulate, disciplined, responsible, and very well behaved.
How did you meet your wife?
My wife, Didi, well, then a young, sweet little girl was introduced to me by my cousin, what I would call her my favorite cousin, Ine, now Mrs. Nnadi. Even though I liked her from the first day I saw her, but I couldn't come out openly and say, oh, I like you. But we became friends.
Ring my bell, ring my bell.
Many years after, it still shows on your body, really. So you were a happy child?
Yes, I would say I was a happy child. Yes.
Tell me more about that.
I guess because I had people around me who loved me, and I felt safe and secure. I went to a nice school. I had friends in school. I had lots of elder sisters, like I told you. And so I was happy. The first day I met my husband, there was nothing romantic about it. My first impression was, wow, I haven't seen a guy who is so officious and so serious-minded and so, you know, so
cool.
So cool, yes. He started writing me letters, and before I knew it, we became pen pals.
The second time?
Before I finished my NYC, he came to visit me in Uyo. And for me, it was like, wow, such a nice, caring fellow, you know. I didn't even think there was anything. And then I finished my NYC, and then he started coming around and wanting to know what I'm going to do. Do you have CVs? I can help you, and all that. And so somehow it evolved, and then when he popped the question, I was shocked.
I wanted to ask you, when and how did he pop up that
I was shocked. I'm like, I thought you were my brother.
Oh my God.
And then he invited me to Abuja to come to see Abuja, see what he does at the Constituent Assembly. And I said yes. And that day we traveled to Abuja. It was so funny because we traveled in his official 504 car. It's not like these days now, they have so many cars. Then it was one 504 car to 2 members of the Constituent Assembly.
Really?
Yes. And the person he happened to be sharing with was his uncle and my father's friend. So I sat in the middle like a sheep being sent to the slaughter. And he sat on this side, and my father's friend sat on this side, and we drove all the way from Port Harcourt to Abuja. And both of them were sharing a flat as well. And immediately we got in, and we dropped our bags. He proposed. And I'm like, what? Is that why he brought me here?
Wow, that was fantastic.
And you know what? At that time, we had not even sat the way we are sitting to speak for even up to 20 minutes.
Wow.
So we really didn't know each other.
And then the marriage, the traditional marriage, his first visit to home to tell mommy and daddy of his interest.
Yeah.
How do you react to that? What did you tell your parents?
What happened was when we got back from Abuja, it was then it dawned on me. I said, gosh, what have I just done? I have said yes to a man I don't know from Adam. And I became so scared. Wow. I became terrified. I said, how could I have accepted to marry somebody I don't know? I don't know anything about him. And so I said, okay, let me quickly do some research. So, well, he was a lawyer, or he's a lawyer. I'm a lawyer. So I said, good. That's our constituency. I'll go and find out about him. So I started. I went from law office to law office. And it was always the same. Hi, do you know Nimi Walson-Jack? And immediately you mention the name, the person starts smiling.
Wow.
And I'm like, so what a nice guy. In fact, by the time I finished that research, I was even more scared. I said, what kind of guy is this that everyone says he's so nice?
Great. Tell me really how he indeed proposed to you. How did he do that?
It wasn't romantic.
Ooh.
He just proposed. Will you marry me?
He went straight on.
Straight on.
I also know that you really didn't have courtship.
Yes.
You know, but you really found time to make up. You know.
Yes, what happened was after we got married, because like he proposed in December and by May we were married. And like I said, before he proposed, we had never really sat down for even 20 minutes to talk. And so he said to me, he said, look, no children for the first 2 years, because I want us to now court. And so it was like heaven itself nodded in agreement, because with the circumstances that now came up, we actually ended up living for 1 full year in Federal Palace Hotel in Lagos, all expenses paid. So it was like an elongated honeymoon. And it made up for all the courtship we never had before we got married. And I think that was where we really bonded.
What makes him special?
What makes him special? What makes him special is that he's my husband. But I think, you know, there's really something special about him. Maybe it's his outlook on life, the way he sees life. He's not like your average Nigerian man. His reactions to situations and circumstances are usually very different. You know, he has this inner compassion for people and situations. And I think that's what makes him special.
That was very romantic. What's the centerpiece of your marriage?
You know, I found a secret, which I think many women don't know. And the secret is that in any marriage, God gives the woman the upper hand to call the shots. And so you can call the shots so long as you are in line with God's word and in line with God's will for the marriage. And so over the years, I was able to pray my husband to become what God wants him to be.
And you've made such a wonderful tag team.
That's by God's grace.
That's great. Tell me about your children.
Okay. I remember when eventually after 2 years I got pregnant. And my husband said to me, this is a girl. And I said, how do you know? He said, it's a girl. And her name will be Sotoye. And lo and behold, she came out and she was a girl. And her name was Sotoye. And then when I got pregnant after 2 years, that was another deliberate plan. We waited another 2 years. And then I got pregnant. He said, this is a boy. And his name will be Nimi. And lo and behold, it was a boy. And his name was Nimi. So we have just those 2 children. I remember after a while, I'm like, honey, let's have one more. And he's like, one more? You have a girl? You have a boy? What do you want? A hermaphrodite? And so that was case closed.
And you're giving them the best things of life. Where are they now?
Well, our daughter, the first, is in Paris. I just took her to Paris to do her second master's. And her brother is in his final year in the UK. She studied law and then did an LLM. And now she's following her passion. She's doing an MBA in fashion business in Paris. And her brother is studying for a law degree in, an LLB degree in law and politics. He's in his final year.
Great.
Before this time, I had two things in mind. I took a decision that I was going to be General Secretary of the Nigerian Bar Association at a time in point because I thought that we could run a better professional association. And at the same time, I also decided that I was going to be Governor of Rivers State one day. And of course, I have been General Secretary of the Bar. I contested and I won. Lawyers voted for me. And in my little way, I showed them how a professional association will be run. I'm sure when history is written, history will be fair, that I played my role. For me, the future is a river state that is different from what it is today. The life I've described to you, the life I met as a young person in River State, was much better than the River State of the 21st century. I've talked about pipe-borne water. Many children don't know what pipe-borne water is. It's distinct from borehole. I've talked about 12 hours of electricity. Many people do not enjoy 12 hours of electricity. I went to a secondary school not based on man, no man, based on merit. While in the university, River State government paid me bursary. That was so much that I could use part of it, 5,000 naira, to buy a flat in Elekaya Housing Estate as a master's degree student. The present generation are not enjoying what we enjoyed. So first we have a responsibility to go back to the basics. We need to retrace ourselves to the last of the good days, and then from there we must leap. We cannot afford to go through the motions anymore. We have to try and build a new society. We are human beings. We treat each other with love, with compassion, with respect. And based on that, then we can build an economically viable society. That there are people will know that when you say, I come from, or I live in River State, it will be obvious from your behavior, from your character, from the business you do, from the way you live, that either you're a Christian or that you have some sense of morality for all of us to get along. That, for me, is a vision, and it's not far-fetched. It may look like an impossible task to some people, but history has shown that it is possible. All we just have to do is focus on it and get all those who are agreed to work towards it.
Okay, so far, how has it been pursuing some of these your very lofty dreams and aspirations?
Yeah, well,
I know it could be quite tasking.
Yes, of course, it has to go out. It's not that it is in my heart. It's not enough. I have to share it with others. And I have, for many months now, I have been talking to people, both the political class, the youth, been talking to the traditional institutions, the women, anybody who cares to listen. I go out to them, some come to me, and quite a lot of people understand what I'm talking about and are willing to help. So hopefully, if all things go right, we should be putting some of these dreams and vision into action in the no distant future. Even those things I've talked about, electricity, roads,